Hi again. Page 322 of Christianity and the Social Crisis, Walter Rauschenbusch, discussing the church and the social movement in France, Russia, Germany, and also in America, and in the year this was published, 1907. He says the church in past centuries repeatedly lost the respect and affections of the people by its corruptions and the oppression which it sanctioned and intensified. But it was able to regain its hold when it repented and improved. It may be that in coming days the church in Germany will regain its old influence in the life of the people. But the outlook is not sure. The old medieval reverence for the church as the only mediator of salvation is gone, and the people are permanently critical in spirit. Formerly the church was able to envelop itself in awe by the shimmering mist of idealized history which it spread about its past services. The people are now educated beyond that. So the future is somber. When a mountainside is once denuded of vegetation and the roots of the trees no longer lace the soil together and hold the rain, the soil is washed down into the valleys. The rocks are again corroded and might form new soil, but as it is formed, it is again washed away. Because the rocks are bare, they stay bare. From him that hath not is taken even that which he hath. In our own country, we are still at the parting of the ways. Our social movement is still in its earliest stages. The bitterness and anger of their fight has not eaten into the heart of the working classes as it has abroad. Many of them are still ready to make their fight in the name of God and Christ, though not of the church. Populistic conventions used to recite the Lord's Prayer with deep feeling. The single tax movement utilized religious ideas freely. A Cooper Union meeting cheered Father McGlynn when he recited the words, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth." Some of the favorite speakers and organizers of the socialists in our country are former Christian ministers who use the power of ethical and religious appeal. In labor lyceums and similar gatherings, ministers are often invited as speakers, though perhaps quite as much in the hope of converting them as with the desire to hear what they have to say. The divorce between the new class movement and the old religion can still be averted. It's a hopeful fact that in our country the church is so close to the common people. In many of the largest denominations, the churches are organized as pure democracies, and the people own and run them. Our ministry is not an hereditary pundit class, but most ministers have sprung from plain families and have worked for their living before they became ministers. The church is not connected with the state and is not tainted, as in Europe, with the reputation of being a plainclothes policeman to club the people into spiritual submission to the ruling powers. The churches of monarchical countries have preached loyalty to the monarchy as an essential part of Christian character. The church in America believes heartily in political democracy. But a church which believes in political democracy can easily learn to believe in industrial democracy as soon as it comprehends the connection. It has one foot in the people's camp. The type of Christianity prevailing in America was developed in the Puritan Revolution and has retained the spirit of its origin. It is radical, evangelical, and has the strong bent toward politics which Calvinism has everywhere had. American ministers naturally take a keen interest in public life, and as well as they know, have tried to bring their religious forces to bear at least on some aspects of public affairs. As a result of these characteristics, the Christian church in America is actually deeply affected by sympathy with the social movement. It stands now at the very beginning of the social movement in America, where the repentant Church of Germany stands after a generation of punishment by atheistic socialism. No other learned profession seems to be so open to socialist ideals as the ministry. Several years ago, the New York Evening Post began to lament that the church had gone over to socialism. Nevertheless, the working class have not as yet gained the impression that the church is a positive reinforcement to them in their struggle. The impression is rather the other way. The eminent ministers whose utterances are most widely disseminated are usually the pastors of wealthy churches, and it is natural that they should echo the views taken by the friends with whom they are in sympathetic intercourse. Even those ministers who are intellectually interested in social problems are not always in sympathy with the immediate conflicts of the working class. They may take a lively interest in municipal reform or public ownership, and yet view dubiously the efforts to create a fighting organization for labor or to end the wages system. We are of a different class and find it hard to sympathize with the class struggle of the wage workers. In recent years, many ministers have spoken frankly and boldly against the physical violence and brutality in connection with the great strikes and against the denial of the right to work. The former protest was made in the name of law and order, the latter in the name of liberty. No one has ever seen the destruction of property in a riot, or the hounding of scabs by a mob, or the unleashing of the brute passions under the continued strain of a great industrial conflict, can help sympathizing with both contentions. And yet it is probable that when posterity looks back on the struggles of our day, it will judge that the righteous indignation of these protests was directed against a cause that was more righteous still. Put in a link to the great work of the Salvation Army, which was just starting up at this very time, 1907, when Rauschenbusch was writing about the contrast between America and Europe in regards to the church's position in the social conflict. Salvation Army, a meditation by Victor Shepherd on the impact of William and Catherine Booth. Vivian did the video.